Because it's the end of the year and we've got a few things to talk about for year end. So I'll try to zoom through this as quickly as I can. If you want me to stop and you have specific questions about something, I'd be happy to address those. Otherwise, without further ado, we'll just jump right in. Important dates to keep in mind. I won't go through all of them, but on Wednesday, the Biennial Legislative Workshop will be held in Bismarck, sponsored by the North Dakota League of Cities. The Parks and Rec merger, there's going to be a public meeting on the 10th of this month at 6:30 p.m. over at the Roosevelt Zoo. So if you're interested in participating in that, you'll want to put that on your calendars. The Employee Awards event will occur on the 12th in Auditorium Room 201 at 2 o'clock. This is the Service Award program. Pretty exciting. And then lastly, maybe a couple closures to be aware of. Of course, 24th and the 25th of December, city offices are closed for the Christmas holiday. And then on January 1st, offices are once again closed for the New Year's Day. We'll get to construction updates. I have probably 6 here, although we've had many, many more construction projects going on. We'll get to the ones that have probably impacted the public the most. Start with the Broadway Bridge. Of course, it is completed. We did cut the ribbon not too long ago. Just to kind of close this out with information, it's a $21 million project spanning over 2 years. Minot only had to contribute about 10% of that, $2.1 million for the improvements that we made as well. As upgrading a 50-year-old bridge infrastructure and created a wider pedestrian path, as you all might know. Of course, with better gating, or rails, I should say, as well as nice pedestrian lighting. The aesthetics for the bridge were also incorporated into those of the flood control project, so it was a nice partnership there for all of that. The Northwest Water Tower project is nearing completion. It should be done by the end of this month. Of course, this triples the size of the existing water tower, which was 500,000 gallons. It takes it to 1.5 million gallons, increasing both flow and capacity as well as fire flows for the region. About $3.3 million for this particular project. We're excited to bring that on. We had to keep the same paint colors because it's along the flight line of the airport, so it's not like our traditional colors, but for aviation safety, it's painted as it is. The flood control projects are moving along quite well. Most of them. The cost there is about $80 million or so. I want to thank the Source River Joint Board for their significant contribution in, of course, design with other engineering companies and leading this project through our community. This is the first year of many substantial efforts for flood control, as you know, going forward. For MI1, 2, and 3, this is the first year of 2, so we'll continue this project moving into next year and over some parts of the winter. The Perkett pump station is going to be, well, the footings are poured and the walls will be going up soon. So that should be online by summer of next year. So we're excited about that too. The 83 bypass, as you know, from 4th Avenue south to Highway 252, that's completed. That was a $16 million project. The city contributed $2 million to that project. As you may know, the state did pull out the northern portion, the completion of the project from 4th Avenue North to 83, Highway 83. We were successful in getting that project put back in after consultation with the state director and the governor and others. So we're excited to once again inform you that that project is back on track and should be completed by the end of next year. So that's pretty exciting. The water treatment plant is well underway here. We're in the first year of 2 years for the plant expansion. The expansion is going to double the capacity of the treatment for our drinking water, and that's pretty exciting news. Of course, that's going to be in concert with, that project needs to be in concert with the Northwest Area Water Supply Project so that we get additional raw water, which will then be treated and then distributed throughout the system at the water treatment plant. Cost, again, $26 million. Sanitary sewer line improvements have been occurring. This project is about 90% complete. It will be done by the end of this year. This upsizes the sanitary sewer lines that connect water from the aeration ponds over to the lagoon cells. So that was a limiter in the way that we could treat or essentially move wastewater through the system. So that's a nice capacity expansion for us as well. Next, we'll move on to employment. Just wanted to give you some preliminary numbers that are somewhat exciting for us as we watch the workforce over the last year and into the next coming months. First, want to welcome the new recruits and those who are promoted to fire department. We had several promotions and 7 new recruits that joined the ranks. We had a very, very nice ceremony by the fire chief and her leadership team that was presented on Friday, and it was just really outstanding. Another testament to the quality of our fire department and those men and women who make that run each and every day. So welcome them if you get to see them around town. Wanted to give you a quick overview. Won't spend much time on this because you've seen some of these slides. Current unemployment rates pushing 2.6%. Fully employed is 4%. So we obviously have more jobs than we do people for these jobs. That's a challenge. As you know, the city of Minot operates fairly lean as it relates to number of employees per capita. These are the numbers presented to you earlier this year. Comes from the U.S. Census Bureau, an annual survey of public employment. Cost of turnover, we've done the analysis, we've presented that information to you. Essentially, when we benchmarked off of the cost of turnover last year, about 16 employees cost about $856,000 in turnover costs. We took that money, or we took that number, and we evaluated what the employees were saying they wanted in the satisfaction survey we conducted last year during the evaluation period. And that's what we used to help put together an informed workforce development improvement plan. That plan is something that we presented to you. You approved that plan. The plan's cost was essentially about $567,000. And we mentioned to you at the time that we would have to achieve about a 2 to 2.3% turnover rate reduction in order for that to completely pay for itself. So I wanted to give you an update about where we are in comparison to last year. These are the calculations we used and presented to you. Essentially, it costs about $53,500 to turn over each employee on average using the statistics of fourth quarter of last year. So essentially, if we could save just 10 jobs, 10 employees from turning over in the year, that would reduce our turnover rate by about 2.3% and make this entire benefit package break even. Of course, if we went and reduced the turnover rate even further, that adds money to the bank, essentially. So another 2% would actually not only recoup all the money invested in the package, but also return a 100% return to that, 2 more percent, twice that, you know, and the story goes. So here's where we are for employment numbers year to date. On the left side of the screen is year to date, November 26, 2017. On the right, November 26, 2018. Our turnover rate in 2017 was 14.28%, and finally at the end of the year we closed out the year at 14.87%. Today our turnover rate is 11.2%, still higher than we would want, but significantly lower than last year. We expect, though, because we have a couple, maybe 1 or 2 retirements, and that essentially it'll be around 12.56 is what we're predicting by end of year. That would be a reduction of right on target 2.3%, and that's just for the last quarter of this year. Of course, we need to keep that number throughout all of next year in order for this to prove itself out. So last year at this time or so, we had 17 open positions. 7 were in police, 5 were in the firefighter area, and then this year we have 9 open positions with 0 in police and 3 in the fire department. So, other notable details, police department is finally fully staffed. Fire department's within 3 of being fully staffed. The engineering department, for the first time in 2 years, is fully staffed. We are still working to fill 2 positions in planning and a couple other positions throughout the city, but things are looking pretty good, and I wanted to get this preliminary information to you. It's not definitive. We'll have to watch it over the year, but we're headed in the right direction at this point in time. Obviously, some other notable improvements about the plan and about what's going on in the buzz is we have an improved number of applicants and quality of applicants. I've talked to many directors who said, you know, we haven't seen the applicant pool this good in a long time, or the number of folks applying for some of the positions. Now, of course, that's not every position, but that's several positions. Increase in morale has been good, and that's contagious, as you know. So we're pleased to see that. We've got a lot of good comments from staff. And then we're currently on track, as I mentioned, to lowering our turnover statistics as well as saving money for the city. I see Alderman Street has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom, can you give us a sense, are we making any headway on how we conduct exit interviews?
We are, yes, Alderman Straight. We have emphasized that with the HR department, and we have seen an uptick in the number of folks who are willing to participate in exit interviews. I don't have the specific number on me right now, but I can get that for you and share it with you. But yes, we're getting much better information and much better participation from those exiting the city. Thank you. All right, I'll move quickly into National Disaster Resiliency Program, update you on a few things. As you know, we have the GAP financing program that's been announced for some time. I just wanted you to know that we are circulating postcards throughout the community. About 3,100 homes or residences have received these. I just want to emphasize not every single home that receives the card is going to be eligible. It has to be low to moderate income families. So we have to send out based on an area distribution of where we think the vulnerable populations are, but income statistics are going to denote whether or not someone will be eligible for the program. So wanted to point that out. But we do hope to be able to continue to see an increase in utilization of that program going forward. The technical amendment for NDR was approved. That was sent out. Mr. Zakian sent that information out to you, but for the public's benefit. The key items that were being technically amended was to allow affordable housing in several builds, to allow for existing and rehab homes to be expanded, clarify which developers are eligible to participate, and also clarify to HUD that the housing market's changed, and specifically make sure that we had their blessing that we were going to try to avoid creating new resilient neighborhoods, and we already had a lot of competition for existing neighborhoods that we could then convert. So that's good news. The downtown gathering place is slowly but surely continuing to move forward. The State Historic Preservation Office did clear the city to move forward. We're waiting for a finding of no significant impact. That's been somewhat delayed because we did get some comments during the public comment period. Nothing necessarily bad. It's all part of the process, but it does take us time to review the comments and respond accordingly. So that process is going to add a few weeks to the overall process. Once that's done, we'll go and issue and continue the project going forward. The HUD waiver for City Hall has been frustrating, to say the least. We have, as you know, applied for the waiver last November. Now, HUD tells us it was about a 4-month process to review the waiver. After 4 months, we began to bug Housing and Urban Development to no avail. We never got any kind of formal or informal response about that. So we took an opportunity during our technical visit when they came to visit with us this summer to express our concern about that. They asked us to update the waiver and resubmit it. We did do that. Then they told us that we'd find out by the end of November. Of course, that's come and gone. Now they're telling us end of December. So I just want to let you know, despite the fact that we've been awarded the money for the City Hall relocation project, we're not allowed to use that until we get this waiver from Housing and Urban Development. So now we are optimistic that it'll be December of this year or the end of this month.
Just want to clarify, Tom, your report here says end of year 2019. That would be more accurate, 2018?
Yes, I got ahead of myself. Boy, time flies when that happens. So I apologize. It should be 2019. Thank you, Alderman Wolski. Apologize. 18, just as you said. Sorry about that. Again, sometimes we want things to go fast. Sometimes we don't. All right. Other updates on legislative issues. I wanted to just remind you about the process we're following. We're pretty well along the way. I appreciate your guidance and leadership. We have currently been preparing the white papers for the issues that the City Council identified as important. Those papers will be completed in draft form by December 7th. Then the city staff will take over, review them. We'll get them to you as well. And then once we get them sort of finalized, we'll put them into a nice sort of brochure, if you will, and then begin distributing that to area legislators and our special counsel for legislative affairs. So just to remind you of some important dates, the organizational session started tonight, or today essentially. State of the State's going to happen on the same date as the legislative session opens, which is going to be January 3rd. And then the proactive issues and the defensive issues that we identified are here. I won't read them, but they're basically up there for the benefit of the viewing public. And so papers will be written on both of those categories of important issues. I want to talk a little bit about accomplishments as we get to the end of the year. We want to look back and just sort of reflect on what we've done. It's been a busy year. A lot has been going on. just to remind you again, essentially, I look at the organization in 5 principal component areas. What are we doing on the financial front? What are we doing for customers, employees? How are we handling the operation? And finally, what are we doing strategically? So I'll go through each of these very quickly. Probably won't read all of them, but on the financial front, we have made extensive progress on a number of fronts on the financial front. This was a difficult year, as was last year, as we've studied and learned and evaluated and come up with a number of different analyses to identify what needs to be done on the financial front. Of course, we have a lot of financial issues that we're monitoring and we're adjusting for, from large-scale projects like NAWS and flood control to some of the smaller capital projects to other needs, both on workforce and other personnel needs, to everything that you can imagine. So the fundamental component I want to be most focused on, I guess, at the moment is the fact that we are attempting to long-range plan everything we're doing financially. We want to take the sinuosity, the unpredictability of the financial state of our city and make it much more prescriptive and informative and do longer range planning. So by doing that, we'll take out some of that sinuosity and avoid situations like we've had these last 2 years where we've had to make pretty big adjustments because we'll be able to see further down the road with the 5-year projection models, which will eventually turn into 10-year models, 5-year CIP, which will eventually turn into a 10-year CIP. The further we can see, we know the further out you get, the less accurate we are. But some accuracy is better than no idea at all. And so we'd rather hang our hat on that. So a lot of extensive work done on the financial front. On the customer front, we've made a lot of progress on the FEMA maps. That has been kind of a start and stop activity, but there's significant progress being made there. And also with the help of others in our community, we've been able to go back and ask for some corrections at the expense of FEMA. Which will make the maps more accurate and has also given us a little bit more time to get further ahead on flood control. And those activities are also something that should be mentioned as well, which benefit at least 25%, if not more, of our community. Community education and involvement, automated garbage collection, the newsletter was started. Customer service training is just about getting ready to be launched. That'll be a first quarter activity that we'll be deploying next quarter. On the employee front, we've made lots of good progress. We conducted the employee satisfaction survey. We developed the workforce attraction and retention issue problem, developed the plan, and then also initiated tuition reimbursement program. We've got some excitement throughout the workforce on that. Operationally, we've made almost a dozen or so ordinance changes just over the last 12 months or so. We've assumed the parking garages, and you just got a nice update from Finance Director Lakefield. Purchase card program, that's something that was just launched, and we're in training right now with the staff. That will save us $100,000 just simply by using purchase cards, and also improve our tracking and accountability of expenditures. We've been involved heavily in 2 mergers, as you're well aware of. 83 bypass improvements, getting that project back on is another improvement, and landfill expansion analysis and the process associated with that has also consumed the staff as well operationally. Strategically, we've held a couple of retreats over the last year. The department head retreat was held just shy of a year, December of last year. We had budget strategy development sessions, countless sessions on that, NDR governance strategy and development. We had multiple council workshops to get the council immersed in a number of important issues along the year. We had the council retreat, as you might know, legislative strategy and process, which we're just about ready to finish up. Of course, we held this first State of the City address last year. And last but not least, we were awarded City of the Year by the North Dakota League of Cities for our efforts over the last several years as well. So pretty prideful accomplishments there. City Council had its own list of projects for us along the way. This list came about, and I started tracking about September or so of last year. There's about 23 different items that the City Council added along the way to the work plan that we were kind of operating under. I'm pleased to report that a great deal, if not the majority, have been completed. And 2 are in process. I'm not going to read all of these for you. You'll have the slides that you can study later. if you'd like. But essentially just want to point out items 21, 22, and 23 were just assigned. So of course there's no work on those. If you take that out, essentially our assignment ratio from the City Council to the staff looks to be about 1.5 projects per month that get assigned to the staff. We're pushing about an 80 to 85% completion rate at this point in time with other things in process. And those things that are not assigned yet, of course, no work's been done, as I mentioned. First quarter focus, I think it's important for you to know where we're headed. So the first 3 months, maybe 4 months of next year, these are the areas in this, that we'll be focusing on, and the projects in those areas we'll be focusing on. We'll be putting a lot of time into the legislative session this year. It's an important component of what we do, because the laws that get generated at the state level are going to impact us for a great deal of time. And of course, with a biennial legislative process, we would have to wait 2 years to take another bite at the apple if we didn't like something that came out of the legislative process. The 5-year capital improvement plan I mentioned to you at the committee of the whole, so I won't go into that. Landfill tipping fee benchmark study will occur also in the first quarter. The city annual report is being worked on now. Staff have been diligent about pulling together their information. We'll present that at the State of the City address, which is also a lot of work that's underway. The city ombudsman role will be explored more and brought back to you for your consideration. Again, emphasizing that no decisions have been made at this point on that. The employee onboarding program will be launched, developed and launched within the first quarter. Customer service training will also be launched, and leadership development program will begin to be worked on. Operationally, we're going to be working on our 2019 goals. We'll finish up the 18 goals and provide a summary of execution on that for you here also in the first quarter. The landfill expansion and relocation project, I'm sure, is something we'll be working on as well. And then, of course, studying one-time-a-week trash service, which was the recommendation of the council at the last committee of the whole, will be something that we imagine we'll be working on as well. Legislative activities will account for a good portion of our focus on strategy. The council, I'm going to recommend another council retreat probably in the springtime, so we'll probably need to work on that. And then long-term flood financing strategy and approaches are things that we'll also be working on as we continue to model and work with the state legislature on a possible legacy fund low-interest revolving loan program. I want to just remind the council to save the date as well as for the community. The State of the City address will occur on January 31st, 2019. More details will be coming. Location will likely be the Magic City campus, and it'll be roughly the same time as last year or this year, January. So we'll, again, get more information out to you, but at least you have that on your calendars. Next, we have a very special recognition. And I'd like to invite the fire chief up. Where's she at? Chief Kelly, if you want to come join me. We're going to recognize a couple heroes here. And I'm going to let her explain the story. But I think it's very, very important that we do this as a city, because we have a lot of great things going on, and oftentimes, you know, they happen in the background and just get missed. So we want to take this opportunity. Chief Kelly, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and introduce who you have here and maybe speak a little bit about the award.
Thank you. Mayor Sitma, members of council, I have a couple people here with me. I have Battalion Chief Hardy, and I have Director Greg Anderson from Community Ambulance. On November 7th at 12:48 p.m., the Minot Fire Department Community Ambulance and the Minot Police Department were dispatched to 1500 24th Avenue Southwest, which is the Trinity South Ridge Complex, for a witnessed sudden cardiac arrest in the parking lot involving a 21-year-old female. While en route, we were advised that she was not breathing at the time. When we arrived on scene, we found that bystanders had started CPR and also connected an AED and did give one shock. The fire department personnel took over patient care, and when we had community ambulance arrive, they had a pulse by that time. Bystander CPR with quick response from the fire department as we arrived in 3 minutes and 27 seconds from dispatch, plus ALS intervention and to the ER in 25 minutes, allowed for a successful outcome of this patient. Fire department personnel along with community ambulance personnel are going to be honored for their efforts by the American Heart Association by the Heart Saver Hero Award. I'd now like to turn it over to Director Anderson.
Mr. Mayor and the Council of Minot, I want to read a letter that was received from Mr. John Kutch, President and CEO of Trinity Health. Said, I learned of your Heart Saver Award from the American Heart Association today. My sincere congratulations to the entire community ambulance service team, especially Christopher South, paramedic, Carter Gage, EMT, Cheyenne Tesher, EMT, paramedic student. This is an outstanding recognition. More importantly, commendation and recognition for your difference of all you do have made a savings in the life of a young woman. God bless you all. You are all very important and mean a great deal to our community. I am aware of your work oftentimes goes unrecognized and unappreciated. Be it known, community ambulance service is known and appreciated for making a daily difference in our community. Thank you for making life possible in Minot. Sincerely, Mr. John M. Kutch, President and CEO of Trinity Health. Yes, and with that, I'd like to call up Christopher South, Paramedic South. Carter Gage. I believe he probably is absent this evening. He is out on a call. And Cheyenne Tesher.
I'd like to call up Captain Devin Walter, Senior Firefighter Philip Anderson, Senior Firefighter Travis Elich, and Firefighter Jason West.
Okay. Okay, on behalf of Community Ambulance, Trinity Health, I'd like to recognize Christopher South. Congratulations. And Cheyenne Kesher. Congratulations.
And on behalf of the Minot Fire Department, I'd like to recognize Travis Elich. Devin Walter. Jason West.
Do you want to ask if she's here?
Philip Anderson.
She was supposed to be. Do you want to ask?
Well, thank you all for your heroism in saving the life of a young woman. We're very grateful to all that you've done. With that, Mr. Mayor and council members, I am done with my report. I'll turn it to you for any questions you might have.
Any members from council have any further questions for City Manager Barry? Alderman Straight.
Mr. Mayor, Tom, I just wanted to point out that slide regarding the first quarter focus. And in the future, over the next 3 months, if you can maybe educate us on, we're optimistic we're going to receive some additional Hub City funding. And I think many of us would kind of like to know how the staff intend to focus that on kind of some of the bigger strategies and plans that you all have, because I think that would be kind of important for us, if you would, please.
Excellent. Mr. Mayor and Alderman Straight, we'll certainly do that. We may not be able to get to that in the first quarter because we will have to see what the funding formula looks like, and dependent upon how much changes in the funding formula and how that impacts what revenues we might expect to receive, that may dictate what we can and can't do. So as soon as we know that information and can start plugging that forward, we'll certainly get you that information.
And if I may, City Manager Barry, too, that funding source likely won't be available in 2019.
Correct.
It will likely be for 2020, and that opportunity